Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Jeff Moore, currently serving as the CEO of ICE. Before we deliver this episode for you, we got to give a shout out to our show sponsor, Jane, which is a clinical management software and EMR. Now, we all know that choosing the right EMR can be a bit overwhelming, especially for those of you who are just starting out. You're trying to juggle it all. The practice, budget, it's not the easiest combo. That's why Jane came up with her new balance plan. It includes the essential features you need to keep things running smoothly in your clinic without extra stuff you don't. But one-on-one telehealth, unlimited support, email reminders, and more are included no matter which plan you choose. So, if you're looking for an EMR that helps you focus on your patients, not your costs, Jane is here for you just like a part-time assistant. Plans start as low as $39 a month in the US. Head over to jane.app/pricing to learn more. And if you're ready to get started, use our code ICEPT1MO at sign up to get you that 1 month grace period on your new account. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the show. Mitch.
Jeff.
What is the nicest gym you've ever set foot in?
Oh, wow. Nicest gym I've ever stepped foot in. CrossFit specific?
Feel free to widen the buoys. I guess I was thinking CrossFit.
Dude, you know what I really like? We were at Jordan's wedding, Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Not bachelor party. It was like pre-wedding festivities, right? We dropped into Ethos.
Okay.
So shout out Ethos.
Okay.
It had everything that you really dream of having this was part CrossFit, group fitness style, but also had open gym format. It had bodybuilding area. But let's walk through it. We're in the main mezzanine. Off to the left, beautiful reception desk area. Nice aesthetics up on the wall. You can buy some merch, check in. Over to your right's the smoothie bar. Everyone drinks having a smoothie bar.
Yeah.
So you got protein shakes being blended up.
Love it.
You got a bunch of cafeteria style couches, tables, chairs. People just finished a workout, just starting a workout.
Dude, nice.
Then you're through some nice double doors. Boom. That makes you, I'm entering the gym. Dark walls, nice lights going on. I think they had some purple LEDs or something. Bunch of treadmills lined up. People just grinding out some cardio.
Square footage. What are we thinking?
10.
Oh, a monster.
Monster. Because now I go around the corner. There's some weightlifting platforms, bodybuilding gym, and then I can enter in this room because we were there for this HIIT style class. We go in this room and it's circuit training. We banged out a 60-minute circuit style thing. Come out of there. Let's hit the bathrooms, and that's really where, if the experience hadn't been cool enough.
Yeah.
Men's and women's.
And do the bathrooms separate because you don't expect much. In the CrossFit gym at large. Mop closet. They're
not great. I'm stashing my sanitization stuff. But sure. You walked in this place. It was white. I'm talking pure white. Nice quartz countertops. We're talking lockers with you'd be able to put your stuff away for the day.
Yeah. We're
going down there's 3 saunas down there. So there's people already in the sauna. There's showers, your stalls, whatever you needed. I mean, this was a nice enough bathroom that I took my phone out, which etiquette-wise, don't take your phone out of the bathroom. Wouldn't recommend it.
Unusual behavior.
I need to come out and show my wife.
Dude.
Did you see this bathroom? So anyways, yeah, shout out to Ethos in Charleston, South Carolina.
If you're in the Charleston, South Carolina, go check it out.
For every gym owner like me, it's the dream. Like they have everything. About how do you get the capital to do that? I don't know, but running a good operation.
Love that.
Check it out.
Love that. Dude, let's dive right into it. Mitch, you've been spending years, a number of years now. Oh my gosh, 10 years now. Yeah, as we start to think about it, traveling around this country, training physical therapists to come alongside fitness athletes. Yeah. And this is CrossFit, this is high rocks, this is powerlifting, this is people that are using barbells, there are folks that are in the gym getting after it. You're getting physical therapists comfortable and confident in this arena. Most aren't. No offense to our work, but the job is big. I mean, when we started talking about this, nobody was doing this. It's getting more popular now, but still, if you zoom out and get actual perspective on the profession, very few physios are comfortable and confident in this space. My question, where I want to take this episode is, with all of these reps of watching physical therapists go through the fitness athlete curriculum, taking the foundations, the online course, level 1, taking level 2, at some point in there, getting live with you all for the weekend course, moving weights around, coaching, cueing. What have you seen are the 3 biggest gaps that prevent physical therapists before they jump into the fitness athlete curriculum that are then solved by the curriculum, that by the end, they are comfortable and confident in this space. I want to know the big 3. I want to unpack them a little bit. What do you think those 3 things are? And let's dive in.
The first one, and the reason people take the coursework, I think, is the gap in movement competency. So we'll just label topic number 1, point number 1, movement competency.
Okay.
Now, typically what they're thinking about is their physical understanding, moving a barbell, moving a deadlift, doing a front squat, doing a push jerk, doing a kipping mechanics, just having a fundamental physical movement competency of the movements. And when I talk to a lot of PTs, why are you at this course this weekend? They have a lot of people that in mind that they want to treat on their caseload, but also selfishly, they also want to improve on this because they understand their lack of being able to demonstrate, do these things is maybe holding them back. And the research would support that as well. A PT's inability to, do a deadlift or their beliefs around the deadlift can impact their treatment selection with folks with low back pain. So they are understanding this gap, and the research would also say this. But physical movement and competency is one area, but it's also the verbal movement competency, meaning like, are you a physio calling, are you calling them lift racks instead of a...
Interesting.
There's a vernacular.
The nomenclature.
The nomenclature.
Yeah.
That all CrossFitters commonly share when we say the push jerk, and then the physio that's not aware, they might say that, they might label it wrong. That press thing overhead.
And you look and sound...
That's not...
You're not in the club.
That's not what we call it, exactly. Right? So we got to understand the verbal nomenclature a little bit around the movement competency piece as well. So, that's the big one. And we definitely sure that up by in our online level 1 course of saying, hey, you need to submit us videos and we're going to give you internet coaching.
Yeah.
Here's what you're doing. Here's what you need to do better. Watch these movement videos, break this down, go back in the gym, refilm, submit this video.
Yep.
And then the live course, you're getting the hands-on coaching.
Yep.
Here's your setup position. This is how I want you to prove that. And then now, not only that, I want you to coach somebody else. And so when I look at a lot of physios in a bit, like what are the areas they're really lacking around this movement competency piece, their ability to coach is far behind their knowledge of the movement. They may understand biomechanically. They may understand mobility demands of that movement. They may understand potential musculoskeletal issues that may come from this. But when I say, okay, great, now coach that and improve that deadlift shape, there's a really uncomfortable moment there of like, I need you to activate your lats. I need you to extend your spine. Activate your glutes. And so they pull all of this textbook definition.
In a lot of words, patients have no idea what that means.
Don't manifest. Dude, Margaret does not know how to activate
no
her
clue.
lats. And if we're being honest, most PTs don't
For
either.
sure.
If I have a room of 20 PTs and I ask them all to activate their lats, they're going to do 20 different things.
For sure.
That cue, while the textbook says, the lat is important in stabilizing the spine, connects to the thoracolumbar fascia, the posterior aspect of the pelvis, it's going to help stabilize the back while deadlifting.
Yeah.
That's not the cue we use in real time.
No.
And that's not what good coaches are using either.
Yeah.
What are they saying? They're going to say like, hey, tighten up your back like I'm going to tickle your armpits. But like right away, we're getting in a better position.
Yeah.
And so the ability to coach someone into a better movement all kind of falls into that movement competency piece that I think is the big number, the first thing on the list that needs to be improved.
Dude, compiling your teaching with physios, but also your long history of coaching, if someone's listening to this and they're like, I really don't have much of a physical movement library to replicate those things that are happening every day in the gym for these athletes, how long do you see it take? And I'm not talking about someone becoming a top 10% athlete in the gym, but somebody who's uninjured and motivated that's going to be in there 5 to 6 days a week doing what's on the whiteboard. How long do you see someone till you're like, oh, a person's a mover. They've got the fundamental, and that person looks good. How long does that take for your average healthy person?
6 months.
Okay.
I've had
pretty
PTs
approachable.
literally start CrossFit, and a year later, they're already launching their in CrossFit related practice.
Yeah.
From literally 0 to a year later, they're like all in.
Yeah.
So like it can happen fast. And depending on how much of an athlete you are, how fast you pick up on this stuff can be a lot more accelerated than that. But invest 6 months into that movement, and that movement competency is going to be at a point where you're happy with it. Yeah.
And I've got to think the vernacular side, because you kind of split that into 2 parts. The fact, can you physically do the things? And then like, do you know what they are? And are you speaking to them correctly? I'm assuming that one, if you put the work in, can happen quite fast. I mean, memorizing what the things are and learning it's got to be less than 6 months.
Yeah, anyone that started a CrossFit practice, an affiliate, they've joined a member of a gym, they feel like that whiteboard the first couple of weeks is like, might as well be Mandarin. You know, it might
totally
foreign language.
So many weird letters.
What are we talking about? Snatch, push, jerk, overhead squats.
AMRAPs, EMOMs.
You might break this down for me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take very long to start to get your bearings a little bit on understanding that. So yeah, I think the nomenclature, depending on how much work you're putting in outside of it too, there's so many resources on YouTube.
Sure.
If you want to get really in the weeds,
Study it.
You can wrap that up fast. And then the physical, motor neuron learning that comes with the barbell and all that maybe take a little bit longer.
So, do you feel like, you got to figure if someone takes the L1 course, the L2 course, those are both 8 weeks, right? There's 16 weeks right there. You grab a live weekend. Do you tend to feel like once someone's done with the certification, they have more or less gotten to comfort and confidence with both physical and verbal at the end of completion of that route?
People that have taken all three, yes.
Yeah.
People that have only taken the live course.
Sure.
So you pop in just for the weekend, which totally happens a bunch.
Totally.
More than 50% of the time, right?
Yep.
They're gonna come a long way in those 2 days. But they're certainly not at an operational level yet. But you sure it up with 8 weeks of online level 1 and 8 weeks of online level 2, and you're going to be right where you need to be.
Dude, how many movements you guys cover? I took the class, but it was a long time ago. How many movements on the online side? So obviously in person, you're going through quite a few, and then the whole weekend you're moving. In the online, because I'm thinking more like vernacular and covering all the bases, how many movements and things do you guys go through as far as submit videos and we'll look at it and give feedback?
Well, I think there's 7 movement video weeks.
Okay.
I have an 8-week course.
Okay. And that's all L1.
L1.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. And then L2 adds a bit gymnastics.
Yeah, L2, maybe you're dabbling with 4 or 5 more specific movements, specifically the Olympic lift variations.
Yeah.
Because now we can talk squat snatching, full cleans, split jerk, push jerk. We also wrap the bench press in there. And then adding more gymnastics movements. What about the ring muscle up? What about the bar muscle up, handstand positions, handstand walking. So getting a handful of more movements that are specific to the advanced CrossFit, but in that foundationals level 1, back squat, front squat, deadlift, strict press, push press, your kipping mechanics on the bar, your intro to power cleans and power snatches.
Dude, it covers a lot of it. Before we move on to point number 2, I know you get this question all the time, but speaking of trying to develop both physical and verbal competence, do you have a recommendation when folks reach out and say, should I be in the online course first or the live course? Is there a best way to go through developing these things?
Good question. I don't know. I am attracted to that person that jumps into the live course and just like, let's get it
experiential learning. Let's do the thing.
Show me what I don't know.
Yeah.
And then let me go back in the level 1 and get another rep at this.
Interesting.
Dial this in a little bit more. Now, I can respect the other person that's on the other end. Hey, let me ease into this a little bit. Let me do the L1 online first. Let me submit my videos. I'm a little more comfortable in this environment. Let me get some experience.
Yep.
And then build up the confidence to jump into the live course and really have that weekend be the weekend where I, as the coach, and I'm in the room with you, I can refine your technique. So I think there's no best way to do it. Yeah, I can respect both.
Nice. Okay, so number 1, thinking about things that most physios limit their confidence and competence coming alongside athletes that we really do believe this fitness athlete curriculum solves. Number 1 is physically being able to do the thing. Number 1, part B, is being able to speak to the thing and being fluent in the language that is the fitness athlete.
Because if you look at buy-in, if I'm a CrossFit athlete coming to you as the PT, I need to hear you say those things. We got to be on the same page with the movement. You can do it. I'm confident that when I say I'm having an issue with the snatch, that you know what I'm talking about. We're on the same page. That's got to be there first.
It's so interesting. Are you fluent in the language? If not, we're going to struggle to communicate and certainly have a harder time, getting along and getting on. Beautiful. That's number 1. Physical movement competence and the language surrounding this space. What's number 2?
What's the most common musculoskeletal impairment?
Back pain.
Back pain. It's the most common thing that you're going to see if you're a PT anchoring yourself to a fitness forward environment. Could be a gym in your community, taking all these people. You're going to see folks tweaking their back.
Yep.
Or tweak their back while doing a deadlift.
Yep.
Or I tweak my back and I need back strength, so I need the deadlift. You need to have a rock solid progression for either restoring back pain or restoring back strength, utilizing the deadlift at some point in that intervention.
Yep.
Or your return to deadlift progression. Specifically.
Yeah.
I tweak this back deadlifting. What does it look like in a stair-step approach to getting me back to deadlifting again? And if I ask a lot of PTs, what's that look like for you? it's sketchy.
Yeah.
They can tell me a lot of great back related exercises, and our coursework does a lot to really re-educate them. Let's zoom out other than just, there's so much PT that's done for back pain on the core, right?
Yeah.
Anterior trunk. What are you doing for the posterior trunk? Like if you tweak your knee, you're going to treat the knee. If you tweak the shoulder, you're going to load the shoulder. If you tweak the back, a lot of PTs treat the core.
Yeah.
So what are you doing for the back?
Yeah.
So we do a lot of re-education of like, okay, here's some really good and really time invested in true tools to really treating and strengthening the spine. Okay, now that we're on the same page with that, what does that step-by-step process look like?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm truly a PT that wants to work with that fitness forward individual, you come in with your back tweak, I should be able to say, are you high, moderate, or low irritability?
Yep.
Where can I jump into that process right away? Where's step one for you based on your irritability? And then what are the next 4 to 6 sessions going to look like as we restore and get you back to deadlifting again? If you don't know that, you're just, what are we doing? We're just grabbing back-related exercises?
Yeah.
When do I add the deadlift again?
Yeah.
Do I do elevated deadlifts? Do I not? Do I do kettlebell? What about the Sorensen holds or GHD holds isometrically? What about bent over rows? At what point do all of these fit into your progression? And why do you not have that spelled out yet?
Yeah.
For that high irritability patient, they just tweak their back. Everything's painful. They're in a bad.
Yep.
What are you doing?
What's
right
your
away?
point of entry?
Because a lot of PTs hear that deadlifts need to be part of the plan of care, and they think that they need to jump to the deadlift early. But you and I both know if someone's high irritable, the deadlift is not ready for them yet.
Not psychologically or physically.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that's not part of the plan, but
Sure.
it's not right now. So what is your go-to high irritability interventions for that folk that you know is going to start loading the spine right away, and it builds the stage for me to be able to intervene with the deadlift eventually at some point. And at home, if you're listening, you should be thinking Chinese planks. You should be thinking inverted planks, body weight only.
Isometric, pain gating.
Shoulders are on one bench.
A non-threatening.
Non-threatening, isometric holds.
Yep.
Build some analgesic effects of
Yep.
loading. Like, that should be part of the intervention. You should also be thinking about PVC, hip hinge re-education. I'm bending over again. I'm teaching myself how to hinge at my hips and not my spine.
A little exposure. Yep.
So those things should be on your highly irritable. What about your moderate irritability, right? Now you're doing things that expose the individual more, that hinge over position, the position they don't want to be in, bending over forward again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is where things like your bent over rows come into place. This is where things like your elevated deadlifts start coming in. Rack pulls, right? I'm feeling strong, feeling confident, but I don't have to go to my exposed.
Explain rack pulls. I got a weird feeling that the percentage of folks that know what it is low.
Imagine some attachments on the squat post that allow you to set the bar at maybe knee height.
Yep.
So I don't have to pull from the floor.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a rack attachment that allow you, just get boxes or plates that will elevate your bar high enough so that I'm deadlifting from knee height rather than from mid shin height.
And then working it down as the weeks go along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now I'm exposing to a hinge position. I'm reteaching strength and stability in that hinge position. I'm got a barbell back in my hands. And then at the low irritability stage is really where we start cranking up the intensity a little bit more.
Yep.
Adding in more things like reverse hypers, adding in things more like GHD work, adding in the deadlift again. But you got to have that nailed down.
Be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You got the reps. If you ask most physios, what are your points of entry at varying levels of irritability to progress or regress somebody through a deadlift, if they got injured doing it and want to return to that activity, what percentage of physios impress you with the answer?
Oh, impress me?
Impress you. You're like, dude, that person, I would send a good buddy to that person if they got hurt deadlifting because of that answer.
I want to be optimistic.
I don't want you. I want an honest answer.
Yeah. It's probably sub 20%.
Oh, it's low.
It's less than 1 out of 5.
It's low.
And that doesn't mean that they're not picking good, right? I want to be clear.
You don't need to soften the blow.
Yeah, well,
if it's less than 20%.
If what I want, if the answer that I want is the movements that I use in the gym and the clinic that our treatment team uses, that clinicians that treat in the fitness forward space, they're utilizing this stuff. If that's the answer we're looking for, it's less than 1 out of 5.
Yeah. Going back to kind of what, like, as we did with point number 1, can you get them all the way there? In the fitness athlete curriculum, when they're done, do you feel like the graduates of the specialty certification, when they're done with all the courses, if you say, what are your points of entry for someone who got hurt deadlifting at varying levels of irritability, are you confident that at this point
I feel confident, but
Yeah.
I'm biased as the instructor.
Sure.
I feel like we shore up that gap, and I'd love to hear from people that have done this.
Yeah, I'd be curious too.
Drop a comment if you're watching this.
Dude,
let us know.
totally.
But like, I feel like if through the level 1 through the level 2 specifically, we do a lot of work on programming, specifically integrating the remom, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point. But integrating things like the remom and being able to give them better advice of here's a better movement that you could use. Here's a higher loaded movement based on the irritability that you're explaining. And then we have an opportunity at the live course as well to say in our deadlift unit, okay, now that the deadlift unit of our live course is my favorite part of the weekend.
Cool.
Because we're going to shatter a bunch of fear that a lot of physios have around bending
Sure.
over and picking stuff up. So we're going to have this big max out window lab where we lift heavy shit and film it and cheer and the music's loud.
Hell yeah.
But then we like part 2 of the deadlift lab is really all of these things that we're just talking about. Like here's your high irritability movements, mod, low. Let's take 10 or 15 minutes and just go use the equipment. Go use the GHD. You haven't been on it. Go do the Chinese plank. How heavy can you load it? I'm not just talking about put a 25-pound plate on someone's lap. What about 4 45-pound plates?
4 slabs.
What about a 100-pound sandbag on someone's lap? And then let me press on it a little bit more. So like we can really start to show potential, like all these movements and build some repetition and build some experience around what that progression would look like. So I feel confident you go to level 1, level 2 in the live course that you're going to get a lot of.
Very cool.
You get a lot of that.
Dude, I love that. I mean, you chose the most prevalent musculoskeletal issue in the world. You chose the greatest cause of disability worldwide. From a musculoskeletal perspective is low back pain. Certainly the deadlift loads that area. It's a common area to tweak, especially when you're pushing it. But I'm assuming this issue you're talking about, having a lack of options for points of entry that are appropriately matched to irritability, this narrative, I'm assuming you see is true in the squat and the press overhead and the getting back in the bar. I mean, this is a universal problem for folks who haven't spent years in the space.
And maybe the thing that people want us to answer the most at the live course, take, for example, the kipping pull-up.
Yep.
We talk about that on day 2 of the live course.
Okay.
A lot of people come in, they're like, I can't do a pull-up. And that's okay. We have so many modifications and scaling options, so you'll be fine. But at the end of that unit, I want to go to the whiteboard with a marker and say, okay, team, what's our return to pull-up progression look like?
I love it.
And everyone's just silent for a minute. Because what we just did was just drilled a ton of different, what I showed you as a scaled regression or a perfect progression into learning good strict pull-ups and good kipping pull-ups becomes our return to pull-up progression. But we just need to order it in such a way that someone with high irritability could enter at the top and someone at moderate enters at the middle of that progression and someone low irritable enters near the bottom of that progression. And so at the whiteboard, we just draw down, here's Mitch's return to pull-up progression.
Yep.
I'm not saying you have to do it, but at least this, we've thought about it. We've talked about why we're going to add these movements at these certain stages. And everyone's just taking notes and writing down. And throwing out good ideas too.
Cool. Yeah.
When would you add in this banded movement? What about this movement? And then we can talk about the rationale and reasoning behind that. But yeah, break that same thing down for a back squat.
Yep.
Athlete tweaked a knee or a hip doing a back squat. What does my return to back squat progression look like? What is my return to a heavy shoulder to overhead, a split jerk, right? What does that look like returning someone back to hitting split jerk PRs again?
Yeah.
At what point do I do strict pressing and push pressing and add speed and velocity to movement? All those sort of things you got to have a plan of attack for. And the longer you're in the space, you should be making that.
Of course. Dude, as you're talking about this, I think like one of the best classes I ever took as a student was Greg Lehman's course where he introduced the idea of movement optimism. And I got to give a shout out to Greg Lehman. He's got to be so annoyed by everybody in the past 10 years because he was saying this stuff so long ago. But you know, it didn't change my practice much, and it wasn't Greg's fault. I agreed with his narrative of movement optimism, that you don't need perfect form. If someone's tweaked in a certain motion and sensitized, find a way to get them that stimulus, right? That's similar. The problem is I didn't have the options. I hadn't met you yet. I wasn't in the fitness space. And so while I agreed with it, what I lacked was a library of options. Yeah. If you don't have a library of options, there is no chance to find a point of entry that avoids something sensitive but gives someone a proper stimulus and actually progresses them on the right path. You have to spend time messing around to create that library of options.
And if you say, Mitch, well, how do you know? Like, well, it's because I've been
totally
in the weight room environment for 20 years.
Yep.
I could retire with a pension with how many years I've spent just moving a barbell around. And through that, it's not all CrossFit, right? Like there's your classic high school sport performance training. Then there's your college where you're just doing bro movements and you're you're researching what's Arnold Schwarzenegger doing, and you're doing
Totally.
all these right? It's like you're doing these programs, and then you transition into a sophisticated bodybuilding physique progression where I had someone program and write all these new movements. So my catalog of movements widens a little bit more, and then you step into a CrossFit related space where now you're in all these more functional movements, right? Olympic lifting. I want to dive into the rabbit hole of all that. What are all the regressions to Olympic lifting? So you build a catalog of all these movements so that when someone comes in, well, we just reach in the bank and pull that movement out. It's been great for me, and it would be perfect for you right now. And PTs are sitting there going, well, how do I get it? We've put together a resource. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
But I want to give a shout out to Kelly Benfield and
Yeah.
Daniel Contreras, because they put together an awesome exercise library that's available for pickup. It's a few bucks.
There's your options.
On the PT on Ice website.
Yep.
And it's just hundreds of YouTube videos where if you're someone going, well, I don't have 20 years to spend in the weight room.
Yeah.
I can pick this resource up. I can watch a ton of these videos, and I can start to understand how the landmine press is going to be a good entry point for that person who doesn't have great shoulder overhead mobility. They've tweaked that shoulder, but it allows me to load the shoulder really heavy. It's going to feel good in clinic and start that process. And so pick that resource up.
Dude, great plug. And I love this conversation because it's a totally different physio that can walk up to an athlete who's panicked. Because I mean, a lot of these athletes they're worried about losing their performance gains. Like, and I hate when I say that and everyone thinks about the games athlete. Dude, what about my performance? What about your average guy who tries to put the time in and you know that you're slipping when you're not in there, right? And you're trying to hold the line, stay healthy and have a long, vibrant life. That's your average person in the CrossFit gym. And I think about the physio that can walk up to someone who's like, oh no, like I tweaked my knee and now I can't squat. And you're walking up and in your mind, you're saying, there is no chance that I don't have something to find a way to get you through that functional motion that's going to preserve the stimulus. What a weapon to become.
And if there's one thing that the best thing that we can do by being so close to the gym, the clinic to the gym.
Yeah.
We're coaching, we're in and out of the gym all day long. Is that when that member pops up and they're like, yo, I don't think I can squat today. Something's going on with this knee. It's really bugging me.
Yep.
Is there anything I can do? In my head, that's the easiest question to solve. Because I've got 100 movements I could choose from.
Yep.
What's the stimulus for the day? Is it something heavy? Well, let's just do a heavy dead instead. Get a heavy stimulus. Well, can we do unilateral training instead of bilateral training? Does a front squat hurt less than a back squat? Can we sub that out? Can we do less load on the bar? There's a million ways to solve that problem for them. In their head, there's only two solutions. They give me a scaling option or I go home. Like, they don't want to inconvenience anyone, so they're throwing one out there like, hey, do you have something for me? Because maybe I'll just get out of class today. I can't squat and I go home.
Yep.
Too many days of that, too many days in a row
Amen.
of just, I don't have a scale, I'll just go home.
Yep.
They've fallen off.
Of course.
It's out of habit now. You've lost someone. And the whole goal is to keep them in the room.
Yep.
Keep them in the gym. Keep momentum going. Stay building fitness.
Yep.
We're always trying to lift that
Another
buffer
brick.
a little bit every day. And so by me just giving them 3 or 4 quick options, it takes nothing off my back to do that.
Yep.
Right? But it allows them, they're just like, oh, dude, thank you so much. That doesn't hurt. Now I can stay in class. Now I get all the great benefits that comes from the social interaction, hanging out with my homies, the hormone, norepinephrine, like serotonin, dopamine dump, everything that's going on from CrossFit. They're still in that space because you found a sub for them. It takes 2 seconds. You got to know that information. You got to have those movements to be able to give somebody, because that's going to come across your desk 100 times if you're alongside the gym environment.
Love that. So number 2 in our top 3 is having these progression, regression options available. Yeah. Whether it's you want to use a certain movement in rehab or whether it's you want to return to a certain movement for sport or activity, whatever it is, do you have a library of options, and do you know which one matches what level of irritability, and can you be precise in that decision making?
100%.
It's number 2.
Number 2.
What's number 3? All these PTs out there you see. Number 1 was movement competence and verbal competence. Number 2 was progression, regression. What's the third thing?
Third thing. If I'm going to be honest about our profession.
That's what we're here to do.
If we talk about like where are big areas of opportunity.
Yep.
Our TheraX prescription has sucked for a long time. When it comes to writing movements down and walking a patient through a program out in the gym.
Yep.
Is it just a list of exercises that they do 3x10 and then they get to go home when they're done with that list?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one of the big reasons for your no-show cancellation.
Because that sucks.
That sucks. It's boring.
It's boring.
No one wants to do that.
It's not looking like the thing you want to do at all.
It's not fun. It's not engaging. It's not fitness. It's not training.
Yeah.
It's not strength work. It's just, I'm just jumping through these hoops
It's a
because you
drag.
told me I need to.
Totally.
And we could do a lot better on that. TheraX programming is the big area of win. So like you have the movement competency now. You know the deadlift and you can speak to it.
Yep.
And you've spent some time building out this return to deadlift progression, and you have some movements that you feel like are good for a highly irritable or moderately irritable patient. But you've walked that person out in the gym now. You've done 10 or 15 or 20 minutes of manual in the treatment room with them, needling, manipulation. You got their symptoms calmed down a little bit. You walk them out in the gym. It's session 4 or 5. Again, moderate irritability.
Starting to get after it.
You've got 15 minutes at your disposal.
Yep.
What are you going to use? What are you going to do with that 15 minutes? And our advocation is like, you need to be good at designing a remom that gets their heart rate up, that introduces the loading movements that you need for that individual, and that treats the tissue that needs treating. But because I've designed it in a remom format, I can stay moving, right? I can break a little sweat.
Totally.
I don't fall off this sidebar barstool story wagon, right?
Yeah.
We can stay engaged in what we're doing here. And not only that, I hand that off as their homework. Because, again, let's speak to the CrossFit athlete. They're asking, what can I do when I'm not here with you?
Yeah.
We'll do this 9-minute remom.
Yep.
We walk through it together for the first time in clinic. Take this and take it to the gym, and I want you to do this after class 2 more times before I see you next week.
Yep.
What is a remom?
Thank you. I was going to say, I've heard you say it so many times over the years, but I think the audience might need some clarification.
EMOM is every minute on the minute. It is a form of circuit training that's been around for years. We are certainly not taking credit for developing the EMOM. It's you can go in every 2 mom, you can go every 5 mom. Like there's a lot of ways to use the clock at your advantage to start a new series of movements. We'll keep it in this most rudimentary fashion as possible. Where minute 1, you do station 1. If I say that's 10 wall balls, you do 10 wall balls on minute 1.
Yep.
Minute 2, you do what I have written for minute 2. That could be 5 calories on the Echo Bike. And you keep that format, right? You pick the number of movements that you want. Let's call it 4 movements. You pick how long you want them to do it for. Let's say it's 16 minutes total, 4 rounds, okay? So very rudimentary, station 1, minute 1, this is what I want you to do for that minute. What happens when I finish that movement? I rest until the clock rolls over that new minute. So you do 10 wall balls, I'm done, I stand around, I catch my breath, the clock beeps again, I start my next station.
Yep.
EMOM, and you put a little lowercase r on the front of it,
Yep.
and you've made it rehab every minute on the minute. So now you've selected the movements that you've deemed to be most important for that individual.
Yep.
And this is something I got to shout out Zach Long. When I was a student, I did a rotation with Zach, and we would do a lot of clinical reasoning on exercise prescription. Like what are the movements you want to give them? And we would really rack the brain on trying to find some high level movements to give these people because they're pretty fit individuals we're working with.
Yep.
And we may come up with 6 or 7, and he'd be like, no, I need 3. And maybe the goal with your remom is to not make it a long list of exercises, but to condense it to the most important 3 or 4. There's 2 types of people that will help you in selecting those movements. Let me try to break those down for you, because we see these folks come in a lot. Let's start with the general orthopedic individual.
Okay.
That's coming in for back pain.
Yep.
They are not a member of a gym.
Yep.
They're probably the furthest thing from it.
Yep.
Multiple comorbidities on board, taking multiple medications, high blood pressure, right?
We're here talking about most people.
Blood sugar's a little high, carrying a little extra weight around
Sure.
the midsection. The most important intervention you can give them, from our perspective, is fitness.
Yep.
So the most important movement I can put in the remom is something that gets your heart rate up. Echo Bike comes to the top of the list for me. Everyone, you love to hate the thing. It gets the job done every time. It never doesn't work, right? 3-limb conditioning. If you got a bad knee or a bad shoulder, you can still get your heart rate up on the Echo Bike. Let's call that person Frank. I say Frank all the time in our live course, right? Frank needs fitness. Frank needs the medication.
Yep.
When you're designing Frank's remom, Echo Bike has to be first and foremost. The back intervention or the knee intervention or the shoulder intervention you're treating him for falls second fiddle to that. Keeping Frank's heart rate up and high and sustainable at a level that of his physical and psychological tolerances is going to be important for Frank.
Yep.
Make this approachable for Frank. If he's never exercised before, don't crush him on his first remom. Really sweeten the pot in favor of rest. I want you to do 30 seconds on the bike, and then we're going to rest for 30 seconds.
30 seconds,
Maybe
6 to 8 cal, something real approachable.
Real approachable, give them a lot of rest. Integrate a rest minute if you need to. But the point being is that fitness is the priority for Frank.
So he might get something in those other minutes that are impairment specific, that are loading the back or targeting a mobility restriction. But in your mind, out of the gates, you're like, what really is happening here is we're making damn sure he gets some fitness.
Frank has a lack of healthy behaviors disease, with the back being one of the multiple comorbidities.
Yep.
And so we're going to get most of our strong work with Frank by the echo bike, keeping his heart rate up and utilizing those other interventions on those other movements.
Love that.
The problem I see, though, is that PTs understand that concept really well, but then they apply it to the CrossFit athlete. Okay? So let's call this athlete Josh.
Yep.
He's a 5-year-long veteran CrossFitter. He's still going to CrossFit despite his back pain because he's not going to stop.
Yeah.
He's just tired of it being in the way now.
Yep.
So he's coming to see you once a week as the physio for back pain, and you're treating him with deadlift interventions. You've got that progression out.
Yep.
You walk him out in the gym. You got 15 minutes with Josh, and you say, well, I need the echo bike on the list. Josh is still getting the dosage at CrossFit. He's still going 5 days a week. Fitness is not his problem. Back pain is Josh's problem. You wasting a minute of your remom to get his heart rate up when he just left CrossFit class an hour ago to come see you is a waste of Josh's minute.
Yep.
And that disconnect of being able to look at my patients and be able to design 2 very specific but very important Therex programs to meet those individuals with exactly what they need. One athlete needs tissue-specific work. Josh really wants you to solve his back issue.
He's got fitness covered.
It's good.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go. I went before. I'm going to go after class. I'm going to get my heart rate up. I'm not missing the gym. You need to make sure that the remom you dose for Josh is as tissue-specific to his back condition as possible.
Love that.
Movements that he can do in the gym, that he can replicate maybe at home, that he can do after class, that he can start to have the tools to solve his back pain. Don't put the echo bike in there for Josh.
Yep.
The understanding of those 2 different athletes, and maybe there's some athletes in the middle too.
Sure.
Josh's back pain's been going on long enough that he's now starting to miss the gym.
Absolutely. He needs a little bump.
He's starting to crave it. He's missing it. And the fact that you can integrate that for him and get a little sweat on, Josh appreciates that about your sessions, keeps him coming back. Having the ability to move across that continuum and know who's working in front of you and design remoms that meet each individual with what they've got going on is important. Too many PTs get a rudimentary understanding of it. Oh, EMOMs, I got this. Yeah, throw the echo bike in. I got it. But you're not understanding the context of who and what they're actually asking you to do for them in your session.
And dude, I love the remom format because it does so many things. Like it's obviously more engaging than knocking out a few sets of whatever. It feels more like something you'd actually want to do, but it's also incredibly objective. You can tweak a remom. Adding 3 more calories to a minute for Frank is a pretty big deal. His remom feels different now because you add, 25% more calories in a given minute on the echo bike. Your other minutes feel different, but those small tweaks are so makeable.
Because Frank can see it happening.
For sure.
We talk a lot about build the bike at ice.
Yes.
How do I see the work being done? How do I start to bring that to light for Frank to be able to see
I used to only do 4 cals.
You're objectively getting fitter, Frank.
Totally.
Do you remember how hard this EMOM was for you the first time you've done it? Now you're smashing it. And one easy way to do that, pick one movement out of your remom.
Yep.
Let's say minute 4 is as many sit to stands as you can do in 30 seconds.
Love it.
Because that's such an easy objective measure to track over the next 4 weeks. It's the same exact remom every time he comes in. And you're still tracking max sit to stands at the end of that remom. Under a little bit of cardiorespiratory fatigue, right? Breathing hard, legs are tired. I could only do 4 sit to stands the first time I was here.
Yeah.
Now I'm crushing 15.
Totally.
You don't have to show the bike to Frank anymore. He's seeing it for himself.
It. And now we go from sit to stand to air squat to goblet squat, and we laugh with Frank about when he used to need a surface.
Dude, remember when he had to use the ring rows to pull yourself up?
Right.
Upper extremity assist here. They can see it now. And talk about like getting someone engaged into the fitness journey. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
That's why CrossFit had so much success early on. It was the observable, measurable, and repeatable piece of it where people could see whether that was the time, the weight, the reps, the improvement of their fitness. I'm not saying other forms of fitness haven't been good and haven't serviced the market really well, but it wasn't as easy to see the progression.
Yeah.
Runners get that because of the time.
Marathon time. Yeah.
5K.
Totally.
Shave 30 seconds.
Everybody knows it.
The ability to make the fitness you're doing observable, measurable, and repeatable. Yeah. And the remom makes that so easy for your patients. Tell me they don't want to come back in and kick some more ass next week.
Where does that live in your course? If people want to get more and more fluency around options, and because I'm assuming you have, I remember doing reps with you all where you were having us design remom. So they're going to get a chance to actually look at these cases and say, this is what I think it would look like. Where does that live?
Week 8 of level 1 online course.
Yeah.
You're going to design a remom. You're going to submit it, and we're going to tear it apart. And that's the goal.
Love that.
And
you're going to see everybody else's, I'm assuming.
You're going to see everybody else.
So you get a library of options.
You're going to give me a case, and you can design the case, but give me some context. Give me a subjective report here. Who's the person? What's their irritability? How old are they? What level of fitness are we at? So that we can give you some real pointed feedback on this is going to be way too overcooked, right? You're taking someone pretty sedentary, and you want them to do 20 burpees. And
dude, how fun for you as an instructor to be like, I'm glad you're in this. that would have been, that would have been amazing.
Yeah. And some of our feedback is like, maybe try your own cooking before you serve it to a guest.
I love that.
Right?
Smoke your own dope a little bit and make sure it's good.
Like have a plate, taste the soup, and how would I just go in the gym tomorrow?
Do it.
And that's my feedback on the live course a lot. It's like, hey, Sarah, this remom looks a little cooked. Maybe drop in the gym tomorrow and
let
give
me
this a
know.
run. Let me know how it goes.
I love that.
Now we'll start to understand things about cycle time of movement. How long do we actually anticipate this taking for an athlete to do this? There's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need to have it figured out in 1 week of an online course.
Sure.
But it's a great start, and we can give you some good pointed feedback, and you can go in the gym and work this stuff out yourself before you start going to the whiteboard in the clinic Monday morning and drawing a whiteboard up.
Totally. Mitch, it's such a popular, and I'm glad it is. And I think you all are hugely responsible for the increase in popularity of doc in a box kind of stuff, or just people who identify fitness athletes as a primary population. But I also think that there's a lot of folks who have struggled to get traction in that space because they've got a lot of the gaps you're talking about, whether it's their own movement or their own language, or they not having progressions, regressions, not having the exercise prescription. I love you laying out these top 3 because first of all, they're significant. Like as you're saying them, I'm like, if you don't have that on board, you're definitely in trouble. If you're trying to make this your population, they're also very solvable. None of those sound like mountains you can't scale. And it really leaves me thinking that as the enthusiasm to be the person coming alongside athletes goes up, those tools you've already created, they will get the job done and in relatively short order.
Yeah, and just don't put the cart out in front of the horse. A lot of PTs get super excited. They're like, I want to break out of this insurance mold. I want to do the cash thing. A CrossFit gym's going to be the best place for me. But do you have the requisite skills?
Yeah.
Do you have the stripes to be able to step into that space and do it really well yet? And I get that you're excited. I get that you're teeing things up. But 6 to 8 months of patience is going to be important here. Because if you just spend that time in the gym, making good connections with the owner, making great connections with the members, chances are doors will open up in front of you and you won't have to knock them down, right? Like the gym owner will recognize you're a PT, that you've come a long way, that people are starting to come to you for questions. And they're looking at that empty office they got in the front of their gym going, hey, would you like to take this over?
A couple $100 a month or something? Sure.
You won't have to force the conversation.
Yeah.
It's happened naturally, authentically, as it should, because you've spent 6 or 8 months getting your ducks in a row, shoring up these gaps so that when that door does open, you can step in and you don't have this imposter syndrome.
Totally.
That's just imposter syndrome is just a lack of reps.
Yep.
Because if you had the reps, you wouldn't feel like an imposter stepping into that space.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd put your hands on the barbell enough, if you'd taken enough classes, if you'd done enough workouts, talk to the members enough times, this doesn't feel so foreign to you. You don't have as much to learn in real time and to catch up to speed with. So maybe exercise a little bit of patience here, right? Get your ducks in a row, integrate into a community in a gym, and a lot of these conversations happen naturally from that.
Earn your invite. Earn your invite.
Yeah, a little bit.
Do the work. The invite will come. They'll see it. You're busting your butt in here.
They want it.
Been a great, of course they do.
What's the number one problem gym owners have?
Their people get hurt and drop off the schedule.
Member retention.
Absolutely.
How do I keep them on board long enough? They're doing a lot of the good marketing things. They're getting people in the door.
Yeah.
They just don't want to lose them once they're in the door.
I love it.
And if you can help solve the member retention problem for them by keeping them in the gym and not having them miss days and feeling like their membership is a waste of money, you can keep retention rates high. Churn rate goes down, gym owners happy, you're happy.
I love it, man, because we love this movement of people wanting to do this, but there are some things that if those gaps are there, you're going to fumble and you're going to overinvest. And once you've strained that relationship or gotten exposed a bit, pretty tough recovery. Yeah. But the gaps have been identified. And the solutions are simply waiting for folks to grab them. A little bit of patience and a little bit of work away.
Step 1 would be join a gym, get involved in the community. Step 2, if you still feel like you have gaps, jump into our online course.
Totally.
Take the level 1 online. We run like 4 to 5 cohorts a year. There's always going to be one you can jump into. And then if a live course comes in your area, you want to travel to it, you want some additional coaching, maybe you're ready to launch the thing. And before you do, you need someone's eyes to coach you and through these movements and make sure that you're not really overlooking something. The live course would be the perfect fit for you to really come through that. Yeah. And we can have a great discussion that weekend. We'll go out to lunch together. We'll talk about your situation. Dinner Saturday night, we'll have a beer and discuss it, right? And we can really help you with some of the final pieces that you're putting into place. But there's a way to, like you said, to solve these problems, and it's not too cumbersome to do it.
Dude, massive opportunity for the profession.
Totally.
Easy to identify gaps. Solutions are already in place.
And you're going to feel great about it. You're not going to feel like an imposter.
You're damn right you are. Yeah. Mitch, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.